everybody, on a Tuesday here. Plenty of stuff to talk about. Let's begin with Florida State University choosing not to try to get their buyout and leave the ACC. So at the moment, Florida State remains in the ACC, and of course, Monday's college football poll had the Seminoles ranked at the number 8 spot. So for the moment, it does not look like FSU is going anywhere. And I think we all knew that was going to be the case. So let's go to our questions. Hey, Justin. Justin, if famous alumni are making calls on behalf of Stanford and Cal, are these alum also going to use their fortune to help coax the Big or the ACC? That's a good question. Justin, here's the thought, okay? Now, Stanford has $38.1 billion. That's $38.1 billion in endowments money. Now, they could take a loan. They could ask for a loan of 1%, which would be, 380, basically $380 million. They could, if they wanted to, strike a deal with FSU and Clemson, okay, and say, here's what we'll do. We will play you, both of you, in a series over the years of home and away games. They could take that $380 million. They could give it to those schools. Those schools could use that money as buyout, to get out of the ACC. So I mean, to your point, could they use it? Yeah, I mean, it would have to go through the process, as I say, of getting the money from the from the endowment fund, and it would not be a direct contribution to the athletic department. It would be a loan which they would pay back. So yeah, they could purchase their way, if you want to call it that, into the ACC or the Big Ten. Let's say they want to give, Rutgers or someone in the Big Ten, Maryland, maybe some of these schools in the Big Ten who, aren't making the kind of money that the other schools are, and maybe they decide, okay, let's do the home and home, because again, you could let's say when Notre Dame plays you at home and you're like Navy, the payout is easily, maybe even $2 million. It's almost like a bowl weekend. So, you're going to make money when you go to Notre Dame. In this case, you'd make money when you go to Stanford. So that's certainly a possibility. Pardon me there for a second. So we'll see. Justin, it's a good question. Impossible. Bring it. Okay, conundrum. That's let's go with it, right? Let's see. Good morning. Hey, how's it going? All right. Great concept. Thanks. Big YouTube fan here. If University of Texas San Antonio is one of, it reminds me actually a great deal of UCF in Orlando. It's one of those schools where they have been building a brand over time, initially through commuters, and then people getting on campus, and now they've crafted over the years a very fine both academic and athletic program. So they're a wonderful addition to the American. There's no question about it. If the Pac rebuilds, aren't they still on the hook for paybacks from $50 million? Would the members be? No, the members, if there were a merger or if the members from the AAC American or Mountain West or anywhere came on board. No, that you don't assume the debt. As a matter of fact, that debt was under the auspices of the 12 schools who were at the time members of the PAC. So USC, UCLA, all the Four Corner schools, and both Washington and Oregon are still on the hook for that. So it's not, no, the conference will get that money, but it will be coming out of 12 pockets, not 4. And it will also require that the any new company, any new schools coming into the conference would not be liable for that. They're not on the hook for that. That's something they were not privy to when it happened, and so no, they're not on the hook for that. So let's keep those UTSA hopes alive, and welcome to the American, guys. Good school. Okay, blah blah. Good to see you again. Is there any info on the meeting between Luck and Oresco? I'm sure that I don't know that. Let's be honest. Meeting is a very interesting concept or way of putting it. This could very well just been a conversation on a phone call, and my guess is that's what it was. It was probably a welcome to the pack, conversation between Luck and Oresco, who have a history. I mean, they go all the way back to the Big East together. So, 100% that could be where they are, right? But I think what the details are is, basically what it's a kind of a, hey, look, Mike or Andrew, we're here. Oliver, I'm sorry, Andrew's his son. Oliver, we're here, and look, we'd like to talk to you about a merger, but let's wait and see what goes on. So I think it was more of a cordial phone call of, hey, welcome to a disaster zone, and if we can help, we're here. So I think Luck has a process, and he's got to do whatever that process is per his employers, which are, of course, the Pac-4. My guess is they're going to first go through a list of a number of schools, and I mentioned a dozen, maybe more, maybe less, and say, all right, what are the pros and cons of adding these schools, with Stanford basically being the arbiter of who may or may not get in. And I think that's process 1. Process 2 would be, okay, if that looks like it's going to be a difficult situation to develop, then maybe the merger, which is probably the quickest way, would be the cleanest way to do it. So there's a process. It's going to take time. I don't know that they have a great deal of time. Let's say this process may take a month, 2 months, maybe in 3 months, but they have that dispensation from the NCAA where they don't. I'm talking about the Pac now. They don't have to have the 8 schools, which we know is a requirement to be a conference. They can hang out for a couple of years, but they got to play football, in basketball and other sports in 2024. And right now they only have 4 people playing in that regard. So let's say what Oresco could say is, while we're working on some sort of potential merger, we can certainly come through with a partnership that would get things moving as soon as next year. So I don't know that any of those conversations have taken place. Let me just say that straight up. But that would be logically the way that if Mike Oresco and the American wanted to work with Oliver Luck, they could. Same thing, by the way, same thing, 100% same thing on the Mountain West side. They could do that as well. So, or maybe both of them. So who knows? But that the Oresco and Luck call likely was just a cordial hello, here we are, and if you need me for anything or you need us for anything, let's chat. But by the way, let's start with this. If there would be any type of merger, there would not be a jettison of any conference members from the American. That is an absolute and total fallacy. They would stay. The only way that if there would be a problem for the conference would be as if if the Pac decided to poach them, which of course, like the Big 12 did, it's possible that they could go that route. So, but that's not, the conference wouldn't be involved in any of the poaching. It would be the Pac-4 doing. But that's just one of the possibilities of many possibilities, which includes, by the way, the ACC going, as we talked about earlier, going to Stanford going to perhaps the ACC or the Big Ten. So any of that's possible right now. But blah blah. To answer your question, I think that the reason Mike Oresco would talk to Andrew Luck is not, don't poach my schools. It would be along the lines of let's talk about a partnership and perhaps maybe a merger down the road when the time comes. And that I think is where the process goes in that regard. And I think, look, Oliver Luck was part of the Big East situation. Oliver Luck's team, as you know, he was the AD at West Virginia. They were left out of the ACC. So if there's anybody who can look at Oresco and say, I understand that, it is certainly Oliver Luck. Can you see there's some commiserating going on there. So anyway, I hope that answers your question. If not, hit me back up. All right, Conundrum. Good morning. How much influence? None. Stanford has no influence in forcing Notre Dame is a big conference. It's a big 10 conference. I don't know that anybody has. The only way that would work is if they took away a bid or they required everybody be in a conference. And I'm talking now about in 2025 when they renegotiate the CFP. At that point in time, theoretically, yeah, they could say, everybody's got to be a member of a conference, including Notre Dame. It's a nebulous thing too, because Notre Dame, in theory, has been given kind of like a conference status. So, Notre Dame could even fight that and maybe win. So, I don't know, frankly, the conundrum. It is a conundrum that Notre Dame couldn't be cajoled into joining not just the Big Ten, the ACC, or any other conference that they wanted to join. I'm sure that anybody would like to have them, but right now, I think where we're going to find out where the rubber meets the road is when the NBC contract with Notre Dame comes up, and if they can reach that kind of goal that they want, which is, we've heard it's in the $60 to $70 million mark. That's a lot of money for 6 football games. So we'll see. We'll absolutely see how that plays. All right. Let's see. Hey, Immaculate, how you doing? Please tell me that there aren't any exploits enough to be drawn over the path. Unfortunately, I wish I could tell you that, but I can't. It's possible that they would be. There's all kinds of poltergeist in the system. The reason being that they would like to get that autonomous 5 or Power 5 status. We don't know at this point in time how much longer that would stay. If I'm assuming that if Stanford stays and Cal stays, then it's very likely that they would be able to hold on to that P5 or P4 or P3, depending upon what's going on, status. So for now, we'll see. Let's see. There's going to be a lot coming down the line, right? So we'll see. By the way, good morning, Buckshot. Good to see you in the house. Conundrum, a follow-up question. As a follow-up question, would NBC force Notre Dame? They can't. They couldn't. They could say, look, we'll give you, but we'll give it what we're giving but they have to coordinate that with Fox and CBS because those are also partners in that deal. Let's say Fox, CBS, and NBC made a suggestion to Notre Dame that we'll give you the same exact money that the Big Ten is giving you, but only if you join. That's a possibility. I don't know if it's a realistic possibility, but it's a possibility. They're going to try to find how much money they can get on their own. From NBC. And it may not be from NBC. If NBC, doesn't box at it, but somebody else walks up and hands them a check, then, that could be the route that they take. But I think they have a relationship. This whole thing, by the way, started with Nana Olmeyer, who was with NBC at the time, and an alum of Notre Dame, decided that NBC wanted to be in the college football business, but they didn't. There wasn't a conference that they could to nail down. They attempted, by the way, to get the Pac-12 conference. So they decided to do the Notre Dame thing, and it's been beneficial for them. If you look at the amount of money they paid Notre Dame versus the amount of money other conferences have gotten, they've gotten a very cheap deal with Notre Dame. So they've had a very long and good relationship. And it started with Don Ohlmeyer, who, as I said, played sports at Notre Dame and was an alumni. So there you go. Now, by the way, speaking of NBC, Pete Bevacqua, who was the president of NBC, will very soon become the athletic director at Notre Dame. So, if anybody knows the television business and certainly knows NBC, it's Pete Bevacqua. So Pete Bevacqua will be the new AD at Notre Dame. All right, Justin, what you got? Prediction. Where's the path for ultimately and stay together? I would say, that's a good question. Let's play the what ifs game. All right. If Stanford decides that they will stay, then I think they'll expand and they'll go to maybe first 8, then 10, maybe 12, in a tranche situation where we're going to add 4, then we'll add another 2 or 4, and another, much like the Big 12 did that, right? I mean, they added UCF, they added, Cincy, they added Houston, they added BYU. Then they, about a year later, they added the 4 corner schools. So I don't think and we all know that USC and UCLA went, to the Big, and then so did Washington and Oregon. So I think that would be the best way to do it. You don't want to bring all the schools on at once. So I think if Stanford wants to play, conference maker, they can do that. Okay, so we'll see. I mean, we will absolutely see if they do it. But I think it really depends on if Stanford wants to be in a conference with with the American and with the Mountain teams, and we'll see. But I do think that it's a very viable option because if we've got that news today that Florida State's staying. Do they really want to share more money with Stanford and Cal? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But they don't have the votes right now. They lack the vote and to get in. So we'll see. If they're going to make a play for Stanford and Cal or just Stanford, it's going to happen pretty soon. I'm talking about the ACC now. Now that at least the 15th date will go by and FSU is not going anywhere. So that'll be important. I see my buddy got a question here from Matt that Notre Dame has a vote on the CFP. So how does the CFP vote make conference membership requirement when Notre Dame could vote against it? I think all rules require full 11 votes. I don't know that. Immaculate, I'll look it up, okay, because I don't know that it requires all full 11 votes. And to your point about CFP, they have a vote on the CFP. So how does the CFP? The point was, could they take that vote away, being that they're not in a conference? I don't know that. It's something we'd have to look into. I don't think, as I've said before, I don't think they're going to be able to force anybody into a conference that they don't want to join. So I think that the Notre Dame to any conference point is probably not a good one at the moment. So, we'll see. But you're right in that fact. Morning, Buckshot. How are you doing? Good to see you in the house. Okay, autonomous funds is great, but I don't get why it would be worth those exit fees to get it. I think autonomous status will be worth more in the future, but any new rules they pass can't be used by all D1. Can be used, I'm sorry, by all D1. I know that this is kind of like chasing the Holy Grail, right? If you're not in a Power 5 conference, what do you want? You want to be in a Power 5 conference. So this is something they've chased for heaven knows how many years, and they absolutely want it badly. And we're hoping I mean, they're hoping that they can, find it some way. And if it's the Pac, then that's the way they go. Is it worth the exit fees? The exit fees, if you're an American school, it would be 17, $18 million to get out. But then again, as Immaculate pointed out, the autonomy, as status is something that can be very nebulous in that regard. So I don't know. I think the fun part of this is seeing how it plays out, and hoping that schools do their due diligence before they jump from one conference to the next. In this case specifically because of what happens. Pardon me. Okay. So, as always, Immaculate, you bring me good questions on. I appreciate that. And you, sir, are welcome. All right, Greg, what you got for me? I know I have my Tulsa blinders on, but it would seem like they've been left out of the conversation. Good academic school and have performed well in the past. Look, Greg, first of all, I agree with you that they're not first in line on the conversation. But you can't tell me that a school like Tulsa that has, some good oil money behind it as well as it's a good research school. It's located in the state of Oklahoma, which, last time I checked is a pretty good recruiting area. So I would think that, Tulsa's, Tulsa reminds me a great deal of Memphis in that the passion for the school in the community is palpable. I mean, it is something that you really, the Golden Hurricane out there is definitely, a brand that everybody wants to be involved with in Tulsa. So I'm thinking that don't worry, even though you don't see the name out there, I think most people in the college football space know that Tulsa is a valuable institution and one which one would hope has the staying power to be a player in the future. So Tulsa's been around. By the way, that little scrolling thing below is, please, if you got a second, subscribe. We'd love to have you be a subscriber. Doesn't cost anything. Hit the bell so that you know when we're going to do this, which is Monday through Friday, same time, same back channel here. And like us, we're likable people. All of you guys are likable. So let's like it. Okay. So subscribe, hit the bell, and like. All right. Thanks a lot. Okay. Oops, I missed a question. There you go. I get chasing A5 status and conference prestige, but how back schools without a TV deal? Seems like you're responsible. All right. Well, here's the way it would have to work. Okay. What Oliver Luck would likely do, okay, is this. Oliver Luck would likely go to many of the same TV partners that the Pac turned their backs on, that turned their back on the Pac, or the Pac turned their backs on them. Likely ESPN first, because the American has to deal with ESPN. And they would go and they would say, look, if we add X, Y, and Z, if we added these 5 teams or these 6 teams, what kind of deal could we have? Okay, now let's be realistic here. You're not going to see the numbers, the Big 12 numbers. You're not going to see, if you get north of 15 million per school, then you're doing, then that's a home run. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to be right in that $15 million rank, which would pretty much put them in the ballpark of double of what the AAC is paying at this point in time. But they get autonomous 5 status, so that counts for something. And of course, as I said before, Stanford would be in there, Cal would be in there. So there's some juice to that. So and ESPN wants the late window. That's where Oregon State, Washington State become players in this little kabuki theater. So there, anybody coming on board from the American or the Mountain West or anywhere would have an idea of what the TV rights deal is, because you have to, you would have to sign the grant of rights first, and you wouldn't sign them. It'd be foolish to sign a grant of rights that did not have who you were assigning those. I mean, you assigned the rights to the conference, but you would want to know the TV partner that you would sign a grant of rights with. Okay, let's go back to the PAC, right? A couple weeks ago on Friday, when they knew that Apple was pretty much the main driver in that, and they were signing the grant of rights, knowing Apple was the primary television provider. So yeah, before you would sign a grant of rights to join the conference, you would know who the TV partner is. So no, your question is good, because you're right. It'd be foolish to sign a grant of rights not knowing where you're going to go, right? So absolutely, that's a good question. All right, we got Immaculate back. If a private university ever comes about, definitely think Tulsa listed as one would be on the static. Yeah, absolutely, I 100% agree. I see there's a two-parter here. Okay, agree with you. Would they have to negotiate a deal while under the gun? Sure. No. They wouldn't. I mean, like I said, you can bring this on. You've got a 2-year deal. Okay, the NCAA is going to give you a 2-year deal. So let's say, okay, the 2-year deal gets you to the point where you say, all right, these are my number. I got to get these schools on board. They got to get 4 more schools on board to get to the 8. So these are my 4 schools I got to get on board. So they get the schools that can get out of the arrangement fast enough. And remember, it's 28 months in the American. And so it's the timing of that would be important. So that's why I'm saying that timing does, a couple of months here, they're going to have to decide in a couple of months what they're going to do. So that's going to be an issue. But when they bring the schools on, like I said, they can bring them on in groups. So let's say they need that 4 quickly. So they would have to identify those 4. They would have to have a grant of rights in place, meaning they have to have some media attachment to it, and then they would bring the others on, after 2025 in that whole situation. That makes it tricky to do a contract, right, with a media partner. You're going to need from the media partner is going to want a minimum of a 5-year deal. You're going to have to look at where the early 2030s is where the conference, the major conferences are their deals are up. So you're going to have to get that whole thing in place pretty quick. So that's why Luck is there doing everything he possibly can to get that put in place, because I would assume that in the next 90 days they're going to have to if they're going to be a conference, they're going to have to identify at least 4 schools that they want on now, so they can begin that process of reconstructing a conference. So 4 minimum has got to come first, and then the rest can come later. That's why I was thinking that a merger might be easier, because you could do the paperwork on that and just transition seamlessly into 2024, 2025, that whole situation. But as I said, Luck has a process, and we'll see how he goes with it. Tight window, yeah. I think we just talked about that. If not, let me know. Missed the second part. Did I miss the second part? I didn't know I did. But okay. Well, okay. Mine was missed completely. Sorry. Let me see if we can get that. Okay. Actually, really, I don't see it above. It may not have gone through. YouTube has issues with live chat sometimes. Yeah. Okay. Put it through again. If I'll try to answer it. things like that. What are you gonna do, right? I'm here. All right, Lewis, welcome to the house. So it would be a raid, not a merger. Well, Lewis, when Oliver Luck was brought on by the Pac-4, it was not necessarily to find a merger. It was to find, the viability, frankly, the viability that of having a Power 5 conference and going through that. And so, yeah, I think that's the process is developing a conference, and then if the conference doesn't, work with that, if it's not viable, then a merger would be there. So I think he's got to go through step one is think about saving, if it's possible, the PAC conference as a conference. Secondly, all right, if that's not available, then why not merge with somebody to instantly have your conference? Okay, so I think that's where the process goes. So it's not, a raid yet. It would likely be that would be considered, but what's going on. So I wouldn't be too overly concerned just yet. I would just kind of hang in there and see how this plays out, because things are going to change pretty quickly, I would assume. But hang in there. Let's come back. We'll continue to talk about it. Kuz, what's up, dude? Good to see you. A source in West Virginia this morning posted that Luck's only working for Washington State, not for Stanford and Cal. With all due respect, I respect all of your sources, Kuz. I mean, you and I have known each other, and we know that. I will tell you that I've received information that tells me that Stanford and Cal are in on this deal, that Stanford is very enthusiastic about the possibility. And think about it for a moment, right? If you're Stanford and you can't get into the Big Ten, and you're Stanford and you can't get into the ACC, why would you not want to try to create a conference that you literally have the power? Because look, there's no disrespect meant to Oregon State or Washington or Cal, all for fine institutions, but Stanford's the 800-pound gorilla, or the $38.1 billion gorilla here. They got the money, they got the power. They could create the kind of conference that makes them feel most comfortable. And if you think about it, right, if they want to build a conference, they could build a conference where, again, because they have the Power 5 status, they could be in the playoffs, potentially, or contending for a playoff spot year after year after year. So it may be to their advantage to not end up in the Big Ten or ACC, at least until a new TV deal is done, which is likely the best way to go. And yeah, Luck's not lucky. This is a Kuz here. Luck's not lucky. You're right. He's had some bad luck in the past, but hey, look, he's got to do what he's got to do. You pay him to come there and work it out. But my understanding is, Kuz, just to clarify, is that Stanford appreciates, again, remember that, Andrew, his son, played at Stanford. He's got a very good reputation at Stanford and Cal. So I would think that that he's on board for all of them. Now, trust me, Washington State and Oregon State are desperately hoping he can pull this thing together, because they would lose a ton of money. Let's be honest. They would go from in the $20 million range to the $4 or $5 million range in the Mountain West, because the Mountain West would probably make the most sense for them. So yeah, that's wild. Let me see if I didn't miss anybody here. I hope merger happens and the rest of America doesn't get picked apart in front of us. I agree with you 100% as a USF grad. I would hate to see them picked apart again. Look, Mike Oresco is, I don't think there's any commissioner that fights harder for his teams than Mike does. And that's why I said earlier that there's no way on the planet that he's going to let anybody take away his, jettison any of the teams that he's brought on. That's just not going to happen. And look, if you're UCF, Cincinnati, Houston, you gotta thank Mike for anything that he's done and everything that he's done for the conference in the past, the past number of years, because he's the guy who's beat the drum to make certain that that these universities put money into them, and and they've borne fruit. I mean, look at it. I mean, we had a situation where Cincinnati played in the playoffs 2 years ago. You had Tulane last year beating USC in the Cotton Bowl. You've had UCF, having great success. So there's a lot of teams in the American, a deeper conference than one might think when it comes to all the fun stuff that can be had. So good on Mike and what he's done for the conference. And believe me, he's not going to sell the conference out to be part of the pack. If that's going to happen, if a merger is going to happen, Mike will have a big part in it and make sure that the American is taken care of in this process. All right, Lewis, welcome back. Okay, you're an ECU fan. Good for you. That's ECU is a very underappreciated school. There's a lot of really good stuff that goes on there, and the teams play very, very well, and it's a great institution. So 100% ECU. So all right, you're an ECU fan. So this will never ends well for us, except for the merger, and now looking forward. Now again, you wouldn't be left out. I'm telling you that's not going to happen, Mike. If there's a merger, ECU is going to be there. Now, let me just say this. All right, it's possible that if Stanford and Cal and Oregon State get in there, that there might be such a rotation when you have 18 teams where you may not see Stanford come to play you at home for a couple, 2 or 3 years. I mean, that's just the way things work sometimes. So it doesn't mean that you won't be left out, but the potential of playing Stanford would likely be for ECU would likely be them playing. You would likely play them, out at Palo Alto, or you play Cal at Berkeley, which taking a trip to San Francisco wouldn't be such a bad thing, right? So no, you wouldn't be left out. Don't worry about that. You're good. And hope, wish you a lot of luck this season until you play USF. Give us a win, and then you can keep winning. There you go. Just kidding, buddy. Can the American entice their current members with bonuses from the buyout money from UConn next year? Each school gets extra. Well, I don't know that they need to entice them. I think that everybody in the American's happy with where they are. I mean, they'd like to be in a Power Five, and I think that's where the goal is. But there's going to be money there that comes down from UCF, Cincy, Houston, UConn next year, and of course, remember that they all that money that Houston won in the tournament goes to the conference. It doesn't go to Houston, so those units will be coming down, and there'll be more payoffs. So yeah, I think that's look, the American's going to be in good shape. It really is. This whole thing with the Pac attempting to stay alive by cobbling together some group of schools, it's not going to be easy, and it certainly isn't going to be something that would take that they would be able to do in a short period of time. So because they're on the clock, as I say, the merger may make more sense to them. Maybe not again, Oliver Luck hasn't been on the job for more than a week yet, so there's a lot to be going over. And by the way, ironically, he was at FAU down in Boca Raton yesterday at a football event, which I'm sure was booked months ahead of time, but it did look kind of weird whenever there's there's Oliver Luck standing at FAU while he's negotiating on behalf of the pack. So sometimes it's a weird situation, but yeah. Look, any money that comes to the schools is going to be beneficial at this point in time, and it's going to be a good season. I mean, there's a lot of good teams in the American this year, and a lot of new ones, which it'd be fun to see. Now, I remember, Birmingham, and I remember Charlotte, because both of those. I remember when Birmingham actually got into the conference, when USF was and Birmingham that was then known as UAB, and they didn't have a basketball team, but they got one, and they did very well. Charlotte also had a great basketball team going all the way back to Cornbread Maxwell. So there's history there, and there's good there's quality from top to the bottom in the American, and it'll be fine. They're going to be fine one way or the other. I don't think they're going to be picked apart by folks at the pack. No, because it's a lot. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of time that it's going to take. And we just discussed that earlier to get those people on board. So don't fret. There's plenty of time left, in that. Can the American Society? Okay. Bonuses. The buyout money from UConn. Next year, each school gets an extra $1 million. Year 2 million. 2 million, year 3 million. Yeah, it doesn't hurt. Believe me, it's going to help the conference. It's going to help everybody. Nobody likes to see, that extra million is going to go, $2-3 million is going to go to a lot of folks and going to need it. So, absolutely, no doubt about it. Let's see, where did I leave off? Let's see. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to figure out where we are here, because it's a moving target. All right. Here we go. All right. We got with Coos. Trusted Plus Luck's connection to Stanford makes a lot of sense. That they would be involved. Yeah. I mean, the reason I think Luck was brought in, Coos, is because of that everybody. The Final Four realizes, the Final Pac 4 realizes that the top dog is Stanford. There's no conference if Stanford doesn't play. I mean, there is literally no sense in even attempting to establish a conference with Oregon State and Washington State. That's just not going to happen. It only works if Stanford wants it to work. And so I think that's going to play out pretty quickly, because if the Big Ten says no, which they have continued to say no. And by the way, it's been reported, not by me, but I have seen reports from credible sources that said that that Cal even would, both Cal and Stanford would have accepted a $20 million deal, which was below, by the way, the money that they were being offered by Apple to join the Big Ten, and Fox, didn't pick up the tab. Also, situation with regard to the ACC, as I said, they were one vote short, but the trend was away from voting for addition, because they wanted to see what FSU did. We now know that FSU is not going anywhere, so it may become even more difficult to onboard Stanford and Cal when you're talking about. It's one thing when you're talking about a group of teams joining the conference, which is what originally that was the plan, and now it's not. And so, does it make sense for you to go all the way across the country to play those two schools? We'll find out. I don't think that it's not going to take long to find that one out. So we'll see. We will see. Always good to see you, Cruz, take care. The AAC, in my opinion, seems to be under threat from the ACC ring. And well, that's yeah. But I think we all become a little paranoid at what may happen, right? The ACC is going to have to protect themselves from the Big 12. They're going to have to protect themselves from the SEC and of course the Big 10. I would think that if I'm the ACC, I'm going to become aggressive. I think that ESPN wants to keep the ACC alive, and excuse me for just a second. And in so doing, I think that they're going to want to do what they can to keep. I don't think FSU and Clemson want to leave. I think if they could get the money up in that conference to be somewhat close to what the SEC is getting, I think they'd be fine. Because look, FSU and Clemson, if they move to the Big Ten, become irrelevant because that conference is only about Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. And in 4 years down the road, believe me, USC. I mean, it's all about the money, and they're chasing money right now. But I don't think their heart of hearts, FSU or Clemson, want to go toe to toe, week in, week out in the SEC either. So I think if they could figure out a way to keep that money coming, they would be fine and they would be happy about it. So let's just say to be continued on this, okay? Because FSU didn't pull the trigger today and didn't want to get out there and go it alone. And so they're going to weigh their options. And so that's like a time. So, could they be a threat of the ACC? Absolutely. Justin, you're right. They could be. But I think that's going to take time. And I think, one of the interesting things, and we certainly know this from now, is that they said time is difficult. So we'll see. But hang in there, Justin. Come back and always ask questions. You guys are great at your questions. They're very good. Conundrum question. Greg Flugart, love Greg. He's a good guy. Has tweeted that coordinated effort by Stanford's big guns and money influence reaching out to Big Ten money purchase is going on at the moment. Yeah, I actually tweeted that out as well. Condoleezza Rice, Tiger Woods, John McEnroe have all made phone calls to both the Big Ten and the ACC, trying to see if they're on board them. Look, guys, we know that the Big Ten has had numerous opportunities to add Stanford. I mean, they added USC and UCLA. They added, Washington and Oregon. If they wanted to, they could have added. I think part of the problem is that the Bay Area, the San Francisco Bay Area, is a professional sports town. Okay. They're the 49ers, they're the Giants, they're the Warriors. That's San Francisco. If you remember a few years ago, the CFP actually had the championship game at Levi Stadium out there. And it was obviously sold out, but it was an afterthought in what was going on in the rest of San Francisco. So I think a school like Stanford, which has one of the best and most successful athletic programs in the country, doesn't want to be left out and doesn't want to be seen as second class. But if timing is everything, and I've always said they could end up at the Big Ten, they could end up at the ACC. That's going to have to happen soon, though. It's going to have to happen soon. For the reason they brought Oliver Luck out there was to give them options, and they know the options with the Big Ten and the ACC. So calling in the big guns and calling in the big money people it doesn't hurt. And I'm not saying that they can't be there. They could be there by tomorrow. I don't know that. But if they do get an offer, it's not necessarily going to be at Cal and Stanford. It could just be Stanford. That would leave Cal and the other schools, Washington State, Oregon State, without a home. And at that point, I think there's no merger. I don't. There wouldn't be any. There wouldn't be any real. There wouldn't be any real reason for the American to be involved with just Cal, Washington State, and Oregon State. It's really a 4-team package there to them, because the Mountain West would make a lot more sense for Oregon State and Washington State. And Cal could either go independent, or Cal could step down a notch and play, in a smaller league. So we could see. I don't know that Cal certainly has money and has the ability to do it, but I don't think they're going to get there. All righty, let's go on. Thanks, Conundrum, for good. Oh, you're back again, part 2. This comes from BTM Associates, part of Stanford's massive attempt to get Big Ten on board. California is not part of the Cardinal push. Agree, disagree. No, Cal is not part of. They're separate on this. I agree. They're part of. They're separate on this. Normally they play together, but because they're rivals, and there's a lot of things. Actually, they share a lot of research and things between the two schools. But even though they are a rival, in this case, Stanford is playing every man for himself. In this case, every man and woman, and being led by Condoleezza Rice, the former Secretary of State under George Bush, and also, by the way, one of the first female members of the Augusta National Golf course. Condoleezza Rice is a pretty good golfer. I think her handicap is less than maybe 6 or 7. She's a pretty good golfer. So, look, she's a very persuasive lady, and it's hard to say no. So, would I be surprised? And we've said this for the last hour plus almost. No, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they went to the Big Ten. But right now, if you're an American fan, you're hoping that merger is in the cards, and in this case, the Stanford Cardinal is the cards we're talking about. So we'll see. Again, I wouldn't discount that as a possibility, because again, they are, they're looking out for themselves one by one, not necessarily worrying about what's going on across the bay in Berkeley. All right, whoops, there we go. Immaculate, there you buddy. You can see ECU versus Oregon State championship game in the AAC. Oregon State's going to have a good football team this year, and they could. You're talking about a possible dark horse candidate for sliding in to take the last Pac-12 championship. So there you go. That's either that, or it could be a New Year's Six bowl game between ECU and Oregon State. Could be. Yeah, good teams. Definitely good teams. What do we got here? Lewis. All right. We left out, if you take teams from the AAC, no merger, ECU is left out, even more watered down American. I would, yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna. There's no way of sugarcoating it. Yeah, if they did take teams, if the Pac were able to pry away 5 or 6 American teams, then you're correct, sir. It would leave a watered down conference. That being said, look. We're in a situation now in college sports where the difference between the Big Two and the rest of us is interesting. Chip Kelly, the coach of UCLA, had an interesting concept. He said, they should take the 64 best football teams in the country, break them into 32 team groups, and play, and they would have no conference alignment. Okay, so in other words, you would separate your football program from the rest of the athletic program. You would put those programs out there that would not have conference alliance, allegiance of any sort, and they would in essence be one step below, frankly, the NFL. The only difference would be that you would have scholarship requirements. That would be the only difference. You still get paid. There would actually be, and that's one of the things we're going to find out soon. Is there going to be, will the SEC have to go into revenue sharing with the schools, and then the schools go into revenue sharing with the players? So there's that coming up in the not too distant future. So something to keep a lookout for. So Louis, look, ECU. I mean, I went to USF. There's there's Central Florida. There's FAU. There's timing is everything, and unfortunately, timing is not good at times for schools like ECU and USF and others. Okay, doesn't mean that the fans don't love it. Doesn't mean that. One of the things I will tell you personally, I did Big Ten football. I did SEC. Pac. I've been lucky enough to do college sports all over the country. And I'll tell you that one of the most enjoyable Saturdays, and I only did a few of their games, but it was fun, was the Mid-American Conference, the MAC. They don't worry about that. They don't worry anything about national championships. They worry about beating up on each other. And great quote from Bob Golick. I'm sorry, Mike Golick, Bob's brother. He said that if the world were to end tomorrow, the only thing that would be left would be cockroaches and the MAC, because they just enjoy playing, against each other. And that's kind of true. I think that, look, we are what we are, right? The American is what the American is. It's a good conference with good football teams, basketball teams across the board. ECU certainly in baseball and basketball, not as much in basketball, but in baseball and football, and all sports are pretty competitive year in and year out. We can't control what we can't control. And as much as you and I would like to see our teams, on the same level as in Alabama or Ohio State, or that situation, right now it just can't be. And we have to deal with that, and we have to just enjoy a Saturday afternoon watching our team, whatever conference it may be in, play the best they can play, and let the chips fall where they may. And it's not fair, and it sucks, but it is what it is, right? We just have to do what we have to do. We can't project things into that because we don't control it. And it's being controlled right now by networks, by people in the television business, which, I used to be in, and I get it. And I can't, these people paid me, and I'm happy to have been paid by them. But at the end of the day, they're moving the metric to much closer to what it is, a professional, way of going things, and not the collegiate way that we grew up with. And it's not fun. But look, ECU's a good quality program. They're going to be around. People are going to see them. And if nothing else, you're going to be able to sit there and go, all right, we just beat people and we annoy them. So if nothing else, we're going to be an annoyance. Okay. So there you go. But look, ECU is a fine institution. Let's hope that all things keep going. Let's see what we got next. Immaculate, my friend. Okay, what do we got here? Okay. Just my opinion, not sure if I want to comment on this, but I think Stanford is threatening to keep the Pac alive in order to get an invite to it's certainly possible. I don't think they worry. I don't think that anybody's sweating it at either the Big Ten or the ACC to keep the pack alive. I really don't. Um, they're if we've known anything, right? We know that the Big Ten thinks very highly of themselves, and the ACC right at the moment is mired in a little bit more of a, trying to put out a number of little minor brush fires that they've got going on. Speaking of fires, we do want to take a moment to wish all of the best and all of our hopes and prayers to the people in Hawaii, in Maui, where there are some terrible fires. If you have some time and some effort to drop, a few bucks their way, the Red Cross is a wonderful thing to do, and those folks out there are hurting. So if you get a chance, that would be a good thing to do. But yeah, I really don't think the Big or ACC is worried about that, whether the pack is alive, dead, or whatever. I think that they've gotten what they wanted out of the pack, and so there they are. The ACC is, as I said, they're in the midst of trying to keep everybody they've got there happy. So the fact that they would be worried about Stanford right now is probably not significant, which is why they probably didn't vote them in the first place. So could that happen soon, as we said before? Sure. It could happen by the time this video is posted. So we'll see. But it's an interesting concept, immaculate. It could. And look, I'm not taking anything off the board. Okay, you may be right. Let's see what we got here. Hey, Ron, we got a new one. Where's he standing all this? Maybe part of best case scenario. I honestly don't know what the best case scenario is at this point. Let's put it. Excuse me. If you're a fan of the University of Texas San Antonio, the best case scenario for you and for everybody else in the American is if they merge with the Pac 4. That's the basic case scenario, because you won't be gone. You'll be relevant in that conference. It'll be a Power 5 conference. So, excuse me. So yeah, the tea leaves there to watch is if they can get a merger. Now, let me just say, I'm going to put this at maybe at best a 50-50 shot, because I don't know that merger is where the headspace of Stanford is. We gotta watch Stanford, because Stanford, as I said before, they're the ones that call the shots here, and we'll see how that plays out. But look, University of Texas San Antonio is a fine. I said this earlier. It's a fine institution. You got a lot of exciting stuff going on there, and I'd be proud of where you are right now, and try to do as best you can in the American. And you can't control what you can't control, and so we'll just do what we can do, and good on you guys for becoming members, and look forward to seeing how well you do in the fall. But hang in there, guys. Keep the faith. We got something going on here, so we'll see how it works out. Let's see. Man, it really doesn't like my question. Must be using banned words. Something bad language. I think I think the question's here. Okay, good. What do you think of this morning's rumor that 4 schools agreeing to leave the ACC? I heard that. I don't know who the 4 schools are. I don't know. And again, here's the thing, Schlepp, that I would concern myself with, okay? Why would you leave when you don't know what you're agreeing to? There's no TV arrangement with PAC. There's no assurance of Stanford being there yet. They have only been Oliver Luck got there Thursday. It's now Tuesday. And so that meant the weekend. I don't know how many meetings they had in between that time. And he was in Florida yesterday. So I don't know what they would be agreeing to. They couldn't have signed a grant of rights because there's no grant of rights to sign at this point. There's no TV deal in place that they would be signing. You sign a grant of rights to let the conference arrange a deal for you. There's nothing on the table. So I'm a bit dubious about that. Here's where I could think I would see perhaps that happening. Let's say the PAC says, look, you are our first 4 favorite schools to come to the conference, okay? If we get this, that, and the other, would you be willing to do it? And maybe they said yes, okay? The problem with that is this. The 4 American conference schools would have to have applied for an invitation. Now that's possible, easily done, okay? And I would imagine that probably there's 30 or 40 schools that have already done that, okay? So let's assume that they did that. Because if they didn't, and the PAC got in touch with them, that would be tampering. And you can't do that. So that would be kosher. Can't go that route. So at best with this, and I do think this is at best, they got 4 schools to say, you know what, if you get to the point where you're ready to go and add on board some schools, and those are the 4 schools you want, and they've already applied, well then that's where I could see that happening. There's nothing to sign. There's nothing there at the moment. So I'm just gonna say, all right, I can't dispute it because I haven't confirmed any of it yet. So I can't deny or say it's wrong, but I can say it doesn't make sense. You can't agree to something that doesn't exist. And at this point in time, a grant of rights doesn't exist. A TV deal doesn't exist. What exists? 4 schools exist. And you don't even know if the 4 schools are going to exist, because if Stanford bolts on you, would you agree to? So I would be dubious of that, other than the fact that maybe 4 schools that have applied to the PAC received a letter back saying, you know what, when the time comes, we would like to be our first in. I don't know. And that's just 100% guess on my part. I have no, that's just me attempting to give you an answer here, which doesn't necessarily seem like I'm doing well, but that's all I can tell you. I don't know what they'd be agreeing to, is what I'm saying, right? But it's a matter of, all right, what do you agree? I'm agreeing to be part of the conference if you have a conference. It's just way too nebulous for me to think that that's even a thing. All right, let's go to Greg. But Schlepp, it's an interesting question. Come back in and ask more. Greg, I'm sorry I hit on the thing, but there you go. I think Stanford's problem is that they're no good partner. I understand. Thank you for my producer letting me know that we're running late on time. I think Stanford's problem is that there's no good partner that really wants Cal. Yeah, probably. You're asking for a lot of grief, taking Cal on. I think that's probably why Stanford, bolted and went it alone. So. I think at first they might have been a duo, but now I think Stanford realizes it's every person for themselves, and so they're out there, doing what they can to find perhaps a place in the Big Ten or the ACC. So that's that's what we see in here. Guys, we got time for a few more quick questions. Let me see if I can. And by the way, again, subscribe, hit the bell, like us. That would be very helpful. And any questions that you leave in the comment section, I will get to them later. So by all means, if we have to go here in a few minutes, but if you have questions or you want to come back later because something got you and you forgot about it and you didn't get to it, or something happens during the course of the day that changes the dynamic of things, you're always welcome to come back and always welcome to either hit me up on Twitter or just as easily put the question here and I will absolutely get to it sometime today for you, okay? Or tomorrow, depending upon what you got. All right. Whole bunch of stuff here, real quick. Let me see if I can fly through. Secretary is now Barbara. Gotten serious. She's very powerful and influential. Absolutely. No doubt Condoleezza Rice is a powerful woman. I wouldn't argue with her. It's my pleasure. It's go Hawkeyes. So you're an Iowa guy. Kinnick Stadium, great place to do football games from. Love the basketball arena there too. It's a lot of fun. Point out earlier, Jim, if the PAC stays alive, then creating a bunch of new autonomy votes with new memberships is keeping its share of CFP money, and that's no small thing. No, you're right. It's 100% right. That may be the most important thing. That you hit on the single most possibly important thing of keeping the PAC alive, and that is the CFP votes and the share of money. So 100% on that. I'm with you. Like I'm with you most of the time, Immaculate. You and I are in that same boat. You're all right. Okay, it's being reported to Jacob League, Cal Sports. PAC-4 already is committed from 4 schools per source. Any thoughts? This one I spoke to a little bit earlier, and this will be the last question, guys. Please subscribe, hit the bell, like us. We're likable people. You're all likable people. And leave comments below, and I will answer them. I'll answer them as quickly as I possibly can. Yeah, I see. We talked about that a little earlier, Bad Moon. I don't know what they would be signing or committing to. There's no TV contract yet. There's no assurance that Stanford is even going to be involved in this yet. So my thought is that, and I'll make this short because I don't have much more time. My feeling here, and that's what it is. It would be a feeling, is that that 4 schools who applied for entry to the PAC were perhaps contacted and said, look, when the time comes, you'll be the first 4 in. I mean, because there's no grant of rights to sign. There's no TV deal on the table. There's none of this at this point in time. So what I think is, just like anything else, people are reaching out and finding out if there's interest. And if there's interest, well, then is there mutual interest? Okay, if I'm a USF grad or a representative or SMU or whomever, it doesn't matter. And I've applied for to join the PAC, and I've sent my paperwork in as for in asking for an invitation, and I received back a letter saying we can't issue an invitation yet because obviously there's a lot to be done first. But if we get there, you're going to be our first 4 in. That's the only way I can interpret this. There's no other way to interpret it. There's nothing to sign. There's no grant of rights to sign. There's no commitments to whatever to sign at this point in time. So we'll see. We'll absolutely see. But because they're committing to 2024, they're not, and maybe even later, because if we're talking about an American school, it's got 28 months to get out. So it's going to take a while. Okay. So watch this space, as the saying goes, right? We will see how that goes. Last question coming from, Mac, wishing you a good day. We'll be back. Yeah, we'll catch you again sometime. Look, we're going to catch all of you again tomorrow, 10 a.m. Thanks to everybody Tons of people here today. Thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun. I hope you had fun too. I hope we did a pretty decent job of hopefully answering your questions. If we didn't, leave the comments below. Subscribe, hit the bell, like us, and we'll be back at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Okay. All right, gang. Have a great day. It's been a lot of fun. We'll see you tomorrow, 10 a.m.